Hey everyone, welcome back to White Sparrow Living, Luke 12:6. This is Wendy. Today we'll be doing 3 Dollar Tree farmhouse home decor projects. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, comment, let me know what you think. And if this is your first time here, welcome. And I hope you'll consider hitting that subscribe button down below, as well as the little bell right next to it so that you can be notified every time I upload a brand new video. And now, without further ado, let's get started. For our first project, we'll be using this plastic 3x5 index card holder, a wood chalkboard tag, 2 of these Jenga block pieces, some scrap adhesive shelf liner, and then some index cards with the little tabbies, some pretty blue flowers, and I think I got these at Walmart a long time ago, some black grosgrain ribbon from Dollar Tree, a white painter's pen from Walmart, and then some Waverly chalk paint in white and this dreamy blue crystal color. And the first thing I did was got my box ready. I'm just going to pull off the tag, and then I'm going to give this an ombre effect, so it's going to be darker at the bottom and then it'll gradually become lighter going all the way to white at the top. So I did the straight blue crystal for the first third of my box, and then I'm going to add a little bit of white to it and then make that the second third, and then ultimately at the top it's going to fade into completely white. And then once I got to the lid, I'm going to paint that just in the pure crystal and then go over the lip where there's a little indentation at the top. And that's going to be where we put our shelf paper. So I'm going to go over just a little bit so that there's no clear areas showing. So now I'm going to take my shelf paper and just put it into that little square and then use my fingernail to make a line around the indentation so that I know where to cut. And I usually cut it a teeny bit larger than where my line is so that way I can go back and make sure by doing another dry fit to see where exactly I need to cut. And then I'm just going to pull the backing paper off and put that down on the little square. And this is removable, so if you don't get it right the first time, you can pull it up again, especially on plastic. It comes up real easily and you can get it in the right spot. So now I'm going to take my grosgrain ribbon, and it was the perfect width for around the lip of the box. So just to dress it up a little and give it some cuteness, I just took my hot glue and placed that all the way around, and I made sure that I started and ended in the back so that my seam doesn't show from the front. You know, as I'm editing this, I just thought about it. I'm going to end up putting a bow on the front anyway. So if you did start and stop at the front, your bow would cover it and you wouldn't have a seam at all. Look at me learning from my own tutorial. So then I'm going to take some of my blue flowers, and I just pulled a couple off of the stems, and I'm going to take off the bottom and pull it apart and kind of just flatten it out into the paint of my box. And then I'm going to take another one and lay it a little bit offset from that one, and then I'll use my hot glue to make sure that that's secured and in place. And then I'm going to cut off the excess flower that goes over the bottom edge. And then after that, I'm going to take a couple more and use the full flower and just kind of lay them on top of each other just to give it some more dimension. And then I'm going to take some of my leaves and cut those apart and stick them in little areas where I think it'll be pretty, just to give it some more cuteness. So now I'm going to take my grosgrain ribbon and make a sweet little bow, and I'm just going to cut off the ends, make sure it's the right size for my box, and then instead of giving it the dovetail, I just decided to go with a diagonal cut and just hot glued that right on the top in the middle of my lid. So now I'm going to take one of my chalkboard tags, and using my white painter's pen, I'm going to write out "Seek me diligently," Proverbs 8:17, and this is going to be a prayer box to maybe study or memorize scripture. So in the Bible it talks about seeking him diligently, meaning God, and so I thought this would be a good way of keeping those scriptures organized so that you know what you've memorized or what you want to memorize or study more. And so it just keeps everything all in one place, and it's a really good way to seek him diligently. So sometimes when you put the cards into the box, it's not all the way full. So I'm going to use a couple of Jenga pieces to keep those standing a little more upright. So I just took a couple and hot glued those to the bottom, and then that way when I put my cards in there, they'll be more upright and won't be falling completely down inside the box. And then I'm going to take 3 little leaves and attach those at the top of my tag so that it covers the little hole. And then I'm going to take that sign and hot glue that to the front, kind of tilted just to be cute. So there's lots of ways to keep your scriptures that you want to always refer back to. And so I just keep mine on a little round ring thingy on index cards. So it's not that cute, but that was working for me. So I've been meaning to do something like this where I could make it a cuter system. So from the little index card set that I got from Dollar Tree, you can take out the little tab portions of this, and you could leave them in as well, but I decided to use it in this way so that it would separate different subjects that I wanted to study, or separate my scriptures by certain subjects. So I took more of my shelf paper and just cut it out into the shape of the tabs. If you don't have this, you could always cut this out of any kind of cute cardstock or plastic or whatever you have on hand, even cardboard, and then cover it up with something cute. And if you already have a scripture memorization system in place, you could actually use this for a recipe box and just go through the same steps but have different entrees and side dishes or salads or whatever. But here it is all done, and I think it turned out so stinking cute. And I love this blue. I went to Walmart the other day to get some more white, and they didn't have any whatsoever. Again, I guess we're having a chalk paint famine, I guess. But I really wanted to do something with this beautiful blue, and I love this, and I hope you guys like it too. So a couple of weeks ago, I was so excited to get this Perky Prize from my sweet friend Cindy in Texas, and she sent me the most awesome little tag. It's kind of like a ceramic tag that says blessed, and a beautiful note that was so sweet. And she sent me this pen, and this is for weeding, and I don't know if you can see it, but it's not a pen that you write with, it's got a little needle tip so that you can weed out your vinyl when you're doing your decals. And I have already used this. I'm so hooked, and it comes in this cute little bag. So anyway, I just wanted to say thank you, Cindy, and it was so cute, and I wanted to share that with you guys. So for our next project, we're going to use 2 of these long plastic trays, 2 of these bottles, and then some eucalyptus from Walmart, and these are $1 each, and then some burlap from Dollar Tree, as well as some jute twine, and then some Waverly chalk paint in white and wax in antique, and then some blue painter's tape, my hot glue gun, and my scissors. Whew, okay, I need to take a breath. So the first thing I'm going to do is take my stickers off and just paint my trays completely white. I was going to do a distressed look on this, but when you guys see it all done, you could do that and it would be super cutie patootie as well. But I just liked it with the plain white. When I put my bottles on top of it, it just looks really pretty and the bottles stand out so nicely. So I made sure to paint the backs of these as well. I'm going to make these into sconces, so you might be able to see the side of the trays. So we want to make sure that all that red is completely covered up. So now I'm going to take my painter's tape and make a line around the perimeter of the bottle. And I had to have my daughters help to hold them because they kept going all over the place. If you're doing this at home, set them on a towel so that you don't have to be chasing them everywhere. One of the things I love about using chalk paint is that if you leave it a little thicker, the bristles from your brush will kind of naturally make lines. And since I'm doing this as a wood grain effect, it'll give my wax a little more dimension and make it look more like realistic wood. If you're doing something that you don't want the lines in, just add a little bit of water to thin it down, and then it'll give you a more solid coverage. So then I took my antique wax and I'm going to dilute it with some water and then just brush it onto the white chalk paint that should be completely dry. You do have to be careful though not to brush too hard, otherwise the water will take off the white chalk paint. So now I'm going to take my bottle and place it at the very bottom of my tray, and there's a little lip there, so you want to kind of have it resting on that so that you can get it even. And then I'm going to make pencil marks right in between the metal little clamp there. Then I'm going to take my heat gun or soldering iron. What is this thing called? Anyway, I'm going to make holes, and it takes a little while and it kind of burns it and smells funny because it is plastic, but I'm going to make my holes and I put one on top of the other so that they would be in the exact same spot. So now I'm going to take my burlap ribbon and I'm going to wrap it around my bottle just to give it some more cuteness, and I'll cut both of them out at the same time, and then I'm going to hot glue that right around the top part of the paint, and then make sure that I glue it in the back so that it doesn't show. So now I'm going to cut 2 pieces of jute twine, and I'm going to feed it through the little clamp that goes around the bottle, and then I'm going to tie a knot in the back, and then I'll feed that through the 2 holes in my tray. I'm not going to tie that off yet though in the back of the tray because I'm going to glue it down where the bottle is going to be touching onto the tray, because the neck is going to kind of be a little bit forward. So I don't want to tie it in the back until I know how far it's going to stick out, because it's the glue that's actually holding the bottle onto the sconce. And you really should add E6000 to this so that it stays in place and doesn't come crashing down in the middle of the night. And so to make the hangers, I just took a scrap piece of chenille stem and then made it into a loop and twisted it at the bottom, and then took some extra burlap that I had left over and just hot glued that onto it just to give it some more security and a finished look. And then I'm going to place my eucalyptus into my bottles and hang them on the wall. And here they are all finished, and I think these turned out so pretty and soft and very farmhouse looking. I love burlap, of course, and the wood tone just gives it a soft rustic look against the pure white of the sconce. And again, you could distress this and give it a more rustic looking finish. And somebody had mentioned one time when I did some other sconces that putting some fairy lights inside would be super, super pretty too, and just be the most beautiful glow at night, I think. So anyway, I love how this turned out, and I hope you guys like it too. For our next project, I'm going to be using 3 of these Dollar Tree houses, 3 pieces of coordinating scrapbooking paper from Hobby Lobby, and these are 25 cents each, a glass dessert cup from Dollar Tree, and a Dollar Tree tin tray, and then 2 dowels that you get in the pack from Dollar Tree, as well as this glitter little birdie. And then I'll be using some jute twine and some burlap ribbon from the Dollar Tree, yay Dollar Tree, and then some boxwood greenery from Walmart for $1, and then some brown moss from Dollar Tree, and Mod Podge. This is the matte finish that I get from Walmart, and then some Waverly white chalk paint and ink chalk paint, and then my hot glue gun, scissors, and wire cutters. So the first thing I did was got my little houses ready to paint, and I did 2 of them in white and 1 of them in the black or ink. And I'm going to give them a couple of coats because the colors that we're starting with are pretty bright, and so even though I'm going to be covering the front and back, I didn't want any of those bright colors peeking through. So originally I had planned to cover the fronts with my paper and have them lined up, but as I was painting them, I noticed the round part where there's a little light that will shine through these letters when it's lit up. It was round and perfect, and it looked like a birdhouse to me, so I end up changing my design, and I'm going to turn these into little birdie houses. So I just pulled out the round part where the lights are attached and the batteries in there. You don't need to unscrew it because that's just keeping the lid of where the battery goes onto it. So I just pulled it up and then ended up painting around and touching it up so that it was all the same color. And then I'm gonna stick my finger into that hole and pop that part out of the box. And then I'm going to take a pencil and some scrap black and white paper so that I can make sure that there's no words that are showing through from the hole once it's pointing now towards the front, if that makes sense. So I just traced out the shape of it and then put 1 piece on the inside and 1 piece on the back so that you couldn't see the words at all. So now I'm going to trace out my birdhouse onto the scrapbooking paper, and then I'm going to take my Mod Podge and attach that to the fronts of all of my birdhouse houses. So now to cut out my holes, I'm going to use a utility knife and just make little slits all the way around, and then push those through that hole and kind of use my finger to mold it to the shape of the circle. And then in the back, I'm going to take my hot glue gun and just put little dots of glue at each of those little triangles to keep those in place. So then I took a piece of sandpaper and just sanded the edges all the way around the fronts of my birdhouses. If you just left it plain, it would be totally fine. And this is just a super small detail, but I think it looks really cute when you look at it up close. And then I'm just going to pop those back into all of the houses. So now I'm going to make the little birdie stands for the fronts of each of the houses. And so I took one dowel and painted it in white, and then the other one in black. And I just painted a little bit of it because it's going to be really small on each of those porches. And then I took the big ugly cutters and I'm going to cut it down, but I had my daughter hold it because they usually go flying when I cut with this big thing. And so one thing I did do is I cut two pieces from the white, but that gave me two rough edges. I tried sanding it down, but I want it to be perfectly flat so that it'll adhere to the front of the house. So I ended up cutting another one from the other side of the flat part of the dowel, if that makes sense. So now I'm going to take some moss and just grab a little bundle and hot glue that to the bottom portion of the doorway and make it look like it's kind of coming out, and left it pretty messy and nest looking. So while you guys are watching me do this, I did want to let you know that I am very, very behind on my replies and my emails and my Facebook and Instagram messages that you guys have been sending me. And I'm trying to get to all of them, and it's taking me a little bit of time. I just started a website that's whitesparrowliving.com, and I'm putting some blogs. There's only two, I think, so far, because I don't really know how to do it, and so my sister-in-law is helping me. But anyway, that'll get better as we go and we learn on this process. But somebody had left me a comment, and it was Disney 1957, and I just wanted you to know that I just don't know how to reply to that comment yet on my website. So I read your message, and it meant so much to hear your sweet words, but I just don't know how to comment back. So Disney 1957, if you happen to be listening, just know that I will be getting back to you. So now we're going to get our little birdie ready and turn away because this is kind of grody, but I just deconstructed him and took his wings off as well as his little eyeballs so that they could stay black after I paint him completely white. And then I'm going to go back in with my black and I'll give him some, I don't know, wings or something. Just give him some pretties along the tail and on the wings. And then I went ahead and painted his little beak with the black as well. And then to soften it up, I just put a little bit of white on top of those black streaks. And then I'm going to put him all back together using my hot glue, and then I put his eyeballs back in too. If you're a regular viewer, you know I've used this little birdie a million times in a bunch of projects, but I think this is one of my favorites because he looks so realistic, and I think the black makes it look like feathers and just gives it more dimension and cuteness. So I had made this tray in a prior DIY, so I already had it on hand, but I used the oval tray instead of the square one, and I just painted it white as well as the dessert cup, and then used some E6000 and hot glue to attach them. But I'll link that video in the description box below if you want to see exactly how to make it. So now I'm going to take my birdhouses and hot glue those to the middle of my tray, and then off to the right hand side I'm going to place Mr. Birdie and hot glue him onto the rim so he's kind of hanging off and his beautiful feathery tail is showing. And so then I'm going to take some of that boxwood greenery and place that in between the houses and our bird, and just hot glue that in there. And then on the other side, I'm going to place a piece of that boxwood going in the opposite direction so that you can't see the end of the stem. So now I'm going to take some of that burlap ribbon, and it's pretty stiff, so I thought this would be good to use for a little banner that I'm going to place across the houses. So I just made little triangles, and I'm going to take some jute twine and then attach it using some hot glue. And I know I should be using my finger protectors on a lot of these projects, so I'm probably going to have some viewers telling me so too so that I don't burn myself. But after I get all of my triangles attached to the jute twine, I'm going to glue those to the front of the houses, and then I'm going to make a couple of sweet little bows using that same jute twine, and I'll glue those to each end of my little banner. And I left some of the string hanging because it's naturally kind of curly when it comes off the spool, and so I just thought that was a cute touch. And here it is, all finished, and I just am in love with this. It is so sweet and cutie patootie. And if you can't find these particular houses, I know a couple of my friends from YouTube, Nicole at the Week's Nest and Kimberly at KTV Creates, they had found some at Dollar Tree, the other kind of houses that are also really cute that you could totally do this with and turn into birdhouses, and maybe just paint the circle on using the black chalk paint. I also wanted you guys to see my clock that I have in the background. I got that at Goodwill for $4.99. So that was the score of the century. Anyway, I hope you guys liked all of these projects. I hope everyone is doing well. I'll also have my little milk jug linked in the description box below, or flying by on the top of the screen. Also, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe if you're not subscribed already. Let me know what you think about these projects. I tried to make this video a little bit shorter, but I guess I'm a little too chatty. Anyway, I hope everyone has a blessed day, and remember to always be the light. Bye!